Yes.
I believe. Nice. I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode.
Well, actually, yes, I'll probably actually my phone's got this weird do not disturb thing, so I can just...
Do not disturb?
Yeah, so I can just like put it like that, and it just won't notify me anything. It's great.
It's great until you put it like that by accident.
Yeah.
Just like, I haven't got any phone calls today.
I've missed everything important. I hope it works, actually. I've never actually properly tried it, but yeah.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. Oh. I mean, welcome to Yelling at Concrete Podcast, Zach, in your own house.
Hey!
With your own microphone.
I feel so comfortable.
This is like adhering to the guest in the most, like, the biggest manner possible.
Yeah, to be fair, like, travelling podcast, that could be that's quite a good idea.
I think I'm doing another one in Northampton in like a couple of weeks.
There you go.
I'm just taking the camera.
Taking it on the road.
Yeah. I did one in a hotel recently.
Oh, yeah?
One in London. Went down to London and it was like, we should record a podcast while we're there.
I think you should take like one of the little sacks, you know, like the knapsack things where you tie it up around a
like
pole.
a bindle.
Yeah.
Just
wrap all your recording equipment in there, carry it along.
Trek from town to town recording podcasts with the various people.
It's got a nice vibe to it.
It does. It's a bit cliche Kerouac. Like if Kerouac was nowadays, would you just be recording podcasts from place to place?
Probably. It's the new hit thing, I think. Yeah.
I don't know that though.
Don't know if it's a hit thing.
Well, no. Like I feel like the last 2 years it's been like a boom of it,
and
now like everyone's doing podcasts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I never feel like it hit the peak.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like there's still mileage in it.
Yeah. Like I still don't see it as like a profitable business.
Yeah, I like because
even
there
the
are
big
adverts
ones.
and stuff. Yeah, but
like even like big podcasts, I'm like, you can't be that profitable.
yeah, normally they'd have to do something alongside it as well.
Yeah, like I watched Last Podcast on the Left, which is it's basically like a true crime podcast, and they go through like serial killers and all that kind of shit, and they do live shows as well.
Okay, yeah.
So they like go to live shows and do panels and basically go through what they usually go through on a podcast but live. And like that works.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's kind of like an evening with, and then you get a bit of history and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like I guess that's like how the music industry works, and the fact that it's like records and stuff like that. They don't make the money. What makes the money is actually going and doing the live shows.
Yeah, the gigs make the money.
Yeah.
The merchandise.
Yeah, and the merchandise. Yeah, just get some Yelling Upon Concrete on t-shirts.
Hey, I can't get a t-shirt of a bee to sell. I'm not going to be able to sell Yelling at Concrete tea.
I love the puns. Like that's what I was about. Like the be nice. I was like, get me on that.
I don't know why, but like whenever I do a t-shirt, it usually ends up with some sort of pun or slogan.
It should do. I'm pretty sure I remember talking to somebody who did like illustration-y type stuff, and because I'm me, I think of a lot of puns.
Yeah.
And I got so excited about trying to sell her the idea of my puns that she could draw, and then I was like, we could make millions. Like one of them I was so proud of. It was a bunch of old like Russian royalty getting kicked into the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And then as he's like falling, he's like, oh yeah, real mature. And then underneath it says sarcasm, like TSAR, and then chasm. I was like, that's it. I've made it.
That's awful.
Or there was also a whole like obviously a very heavy band.
Yeah.
And playing some music, and then they're just getting like a load of this like liquid thrown on them, and they're like running away like and it says detergent.
You should work for catchphrase.
See, I'm made for it.
you should definitely work for catchphrase. Oh dear. So we were discussing earlier. So it's been like a year or two since you've last done the podcast.
Yeah. Long time.
I got watching again the other day to refresh my memory of what we talked about.
I kind of did the same thing, yeah.
Which I found kind of ironic because the reason we're in your house today is because we recorded you doing your project, which we talked about in that podcast.
It all comes full circle.
It's taken us a year.
Yeah.
But you've managed to make a project.
So let's talk now then about how we're going to make like loads of money, and we're going to be like all of our dreams are going to come true, and then in a year.
In a year, we can depress ourselves.
Just in a year, it won't happen. We'll be like, damn it, it was a one-time thing. We wasted it.
No, I feel because in the last one we were talking about how you kind of like you would throw in a few bits in like folders and stuff like that, and like you weren't sure whether you were going to do a thing. And since then, you've done essentially an album.
Yeah.
Which you released.
Yeah, and I'm still like that one album was kind of made up of so many old things. Like essentially it went back to, I think the oldest of those songs was like I wrote in my first year of uni.
Yeah.
And then I released it about 5 years later. So it was a collection of like 5 years worth of various different, like, it was quite a changing period, that period of uni. Like I came into uni at the end of like a really long relationship, and then I was essentially, then I was free for the other 2 years of uni. So that was all about really essentially me learning to be myself, which is what most people do a bit earlier, I think.
I don't know. Like I kind of, so I had that thought the other day because it's been about 2.5 years now since my previous relationship ended, and I went through the whole process of learning to date.
Yeah.
Because I'd been in such a long relationship, and that relationship had kind of existed during uni. Yeah. So I hadn't dated since college.
Oh.
Like at all.
Yeah.
Like it just hadn't been a thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of came out. So like the last 2 years, I've basically just like figured out how to be me, but then at the same time, I don't feel like I've changed that much.
But that's important. It's more about learning how to kind of cope with yourself, maybe.
I don't know. I cope pretty well with myself.
That's good. Also, I totally realised I might need to go and actually get that done.
Go for it.
So I'm going to go do that. You can just keep the folks at home busy.
I'll chat the usual shit.
Yeah.
Which I chat when no one else is in. So Zach has gone to answer the door. So I'm just here, doing nothing. Parcels?
So I really realised I needed to go and get that because I bought a new laptop.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, if I miss that, that's probably bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What prompted the new laptop?
Well, the one that I'm currently using is like 5-6 years old, so it's on its last legs, and I just decided, you know what, I'm really bad at spending money.
Okay.
Like I see something, I'm like, but do I need it? Probably not. And then I won't. I'm just bad at buying things, which most people say is a good thing, but
I'm almost exactly the same. I hate spending money.
Yeah.
I like every time I've made a big purchase, I feel sick afterwards.
Oh.
Like even if I know I need it, like it's an important thing. It's like, you know, I'm going to spend, you know, £1,000. Afterwards, I get genuine anxiety of just like, oh shit.
Oh, I've done it.
I spent so much money, and like, what could I have done with that money? And that's where my brain always goes. I'm like, do I need that coat, which is like 70 quid? I'm like, yeah, but what could I do with 70 quid?
That's it. I do all of that beforehand.
Yeah.
But then once I've done it,
yeah,
I'm like, well, I've spent the money now. Can't do anything about it yet. It's done. And so that's why I kind of just have almost fugue states where I just disassociate. I disassociate from my own body, and I just like, a part of me will just buy it, and then it will come back, and I'll be like, oh well.
I do so much research.
Yeah.
Into everything. It's like right now, so I need a new phone because this is dying. It's terrible. And I'm looking at phones, and I haven't bought a phone in like a decade, maybe. I don't know, like something stupid like that. But it's just been like, yeah, cool. So all phones are basically the same now.
Yeah.
But they all cost different prices, and they're all slightly different.
There's that.
There's like, and then there's no excuse for one phone being $1,000 and another phone being 300 quid. And you're like, well, surely one's better, right?
Yeah.
Like
it all depends, I think, on purely what you need it for. And
yeah.
Like, so like I got a new phone recently, and I got a Google Pixel.
That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm thinking.
And my main thought was, I was like, well, Google make Android, so therefore there must be some kind of synergy there. That makes sense. And plus, like, the camera's good, which is one of the main things I use my phone for.
My whole thought on the Pixel was like, so I use Google Mail, I use Google Maps, I use Google to pay for things, I use Google for like searching things. Why not just have that device which is made for all those programs?
Exactly.
And I was like, any software update is just going to make those programs better rather than breaking them.
Exactly.
And that's my theory.
Yeah,
that's how Google owns everything.
Exactly. You just wait until one day we'll praise our Google overlords. Thank you. That's my problem. I worry now because after buying that,
Google will just go down under.
After that, I've started to really buy into their entire ecosystem a bit too much. Like
I watched a video recently, which is why people like Apple products.
Okay.
And it was like a big list of 10 things. It didn't actually solve anything. It was just like, oh, because it's like ergonomically designed and all this. It's like, but then also here's 10 other ones which are ergonomically designed. And it was kind of tongue in cheek of the reasons people like it. It's just because that's why they like it.
Yeah.
But one of the things which got mentioned was the Apple ecosystem, and that people kind of end up like trapping themselves into it, sort of thing.
100%.
So it's like you get the iPhone. It's like, cool, this works with iPhone products.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all your music on iTunes, you get your Apple Mail, and you do all that. You just keep stacking it until suddenly you're like, well, if I leave it now, it's going to be way more hassle.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep buying new iPhones.
I had an iPhone prior to this, and fortunately I didn't have like a Mac, or basically I didn't have anything else Apple. So my life was pain from a technological standpoint because instead of everything being really synergized and like slick and easy, it was like, oh, I've got to use iTunes on my non-Apple computer, which is a pain and it just doesn't work 100%. And then I was genuinely, because I knew I needed a new laptop, so I was thinking, oh, maybe I should get a Mac, because I've got an iPhone. And then when I got a non-iPhone for my new phone, I thought, well, there's no point getting a Mac now. That would have been the most hilarious turn, like getting a Mac computer.
One Apple product, and that's my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing I own. And I have iCloud, but I don't have iTunes because I never had a MP3 iPlayer or whatever it was called.
iPod.
iPod.
Yeah.
Wow. How did I not know iPod? I'm tired. I'm just.
Well, it was the whole thing with like with Apple Pay. The fact that they called it Apple Pay and not iPay really confused me. I was like, you've called everything else that, but I guess
this one's Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that there's something out there called Apple iPay.
Yeah.
Already, and it exists, and they just wanted to absolutely pound it into the ground.
Probably.
Yeah, which is how Apple works now.
It makes sense, yeah.
Massive corporations and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. Well, there was that place that got the rights to use Big Mac from McDonald's. Yeah. I think it was like a Scottish place or something. It's been around for longer than McDonald's.
It was McDonald's had filed a suit against them for using Big Mac, and they won.
So then McDonald's lost the rights to it.
Yeah, they lost the rights to it. And now you can go to Burger King and buy the Big Mac.
Yeah.
Or a Big Mac. Or it's not a Big Mac, or whatever the fuck they call it.
I think it's like specifically in the UK, I think. So like in America it's probably like all the exact same.
But everywhere in Europe it's like nah, everyone sells a Big Mac now.
But it meant that small, like I think it was maybe just like a one place business.
Yeah.
It then meant they could spread across like all of the UK because then they had the rights to it.
Yeah.
Take that, corporations. I'll make my own corporation.
And then give it 10 years and then that small Scottish burger thing will be like a massive corporation, like Five Guys.
What a great world we live in.
It's the thing where you like people are on getting about like Walmart and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but everything starts as small. Like you think Woolworths. Woolworths was huge, but it was just like some random guy who had like a store in the Victorian era and then got a massive superstore. Yeah. It's like every single business has started small. No one's gone, this is going to be big from the get-go. Apart from maybe, I don't know, like even Amazon.
Oh, no, yeah. Like,
Amazon was little.
There's the whole thing being like, oh, they started in a garage. Although apparently that's kind of like...
That's dubious.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like been over mystified. Like really it was... They were doing it in a garage because it was cheaper and they actually had like a grant of a stupid amount of money to start it and stuff. So.
There's a video of some guy interviewing Jeff Bezos when he's like starting. Back when Amazon was like a bookseller. And it's basically like a news interview or something because the guy's going in and he's like, he's kind of being investigatory, but at the same time he's kind of poking the bear a little bit about Amazon and like what it did at the time, because what it did at the time was obviously revolutionary, but obviously made a lot of people uncomfortable as well, because it was that whole thing of like, you go buy a book and it recommends 5 books, and they were like, how do you know that? How are you tracking that data? And it was just kind of glossed over because you're like, it's just recommendations.
It's just data.
And whereas now Amazon know everything about it. And it's really interesting because Jeff Bezos is he's just this weird little geeky guy. He's like shy. He drives like a random like low cost car because he's just happy to. He's got no money and they're just making Amazon. And you're like, and then you look at him now and he's like some freaking tank. Yeah. Like, you seen Jeff Bezos?
I've seen him a little bit, but I haven't seen how. I've never looked at him and thought that guy's a henchman.
He's a henchman. Oh, I've seen pictures of him, and he's in some like athletic top or some shit. And you just look at him, and you're like, he would pound me into the ground.
Maybe that's just what happens. You get so rich, there's nothing else to do but just work out.
I mean, there is that.
Like, I really liked how. I don't know if you watched the latest season of Black Mirror.
I haven't.
There's one bit in that where there's the CEO for this big like social media, and his like whole thing is he says he's just a figurehead, like he doesn't really do much with the company anymore, and he's just like on a retreat somewhere, and he's just there like topless, like good physique and stuff, and I'm like, that's probably quite accurate. Like CEOs just, I've got nothing to do, I guess I might as well.
Yeah.
I've got people who, because like Todd Howard says that about Bethesda, for example. I think he was saying that his producers do so much of the kind of the admin-y, boring stuff, that's why he has such a creative hand in the games, is because he just has other people to kind of take the weight of the other
so just
stuff.
Pulling ideas at the wall and
hopes for mistakes.
I've got this. This is an idea.
Skyrim again.
Yeah, we'll do Skyrim again. That's interesting. Like, I mean, so you watched Always Sunny. And the fact that they get Fat Mac.
Yeah.
And the reason they did Fat Mac was because Ron McKenney was like, I hate when you watch a sitcom and everyone gets prettier.
Yeah.
Because obviously they get makeup artists and the production value goes, and he's like, no, I'm just going to get real fat for like a whole season and we're just going to throw everybody off. And I was like, that's genius.
Apparently I heard as well that he actually tried to suggest that everybody get real fat.
Right.
And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we all wear fat suits. And then Rob was like, no, we actually get fat. And but I love the fact as well that then for this later season when he's absolutely ripped as hell, I was like, the whole season you just kind of like, where did that come from? And then because of the last episode, that's why he got so ripped, because he was just practicing and rehearsing this dance routine so much.
Ron McKenney's scary ripped. Like,
yeah.
Scary. Like, his face has changed ripped.
Like, yeah,
like even when he was like hench in the early seasons, you were like, yeah, this is, it looks normal. And then now, you look at him, you're like, I don't get how you've lost so much fat in your face. Like, what was there to lose?
I think, just like it's invisible fat that you just don't really think about, and then.
And now he's just, I kind of want Fat Mac back.
I think he might bring.
He's my favourite iteration of Mac.
I reckon he will get less ripped if nothing else, because, like you were saying, this whole idea of, he doesn't like the idea of people getting prettier.
Yeah.
Which I like. I mean, I like as a show it kind of takes the tropes and just
throws them out the window.
Yeah, or keeps them in the window, but then just like beats them to a pulp.
Just grasps hold of them like, you can't do anything with this. Yeah. We're just gonna keep doing this.
That's why I really like the whole female reboot episode, because I was just like, they were going ham on making a whole thing of the fact that female reboots shouldn't they shouldn't be done just for the sake of making a female reboot.
No. I mean, that's a conversation I've had before on the podcast. Of because I think it was around the time of when the Ghostbusters reboot came out.
Yeah,
and that's like I've not seen the Ghostbusters reboot. I have no idea if it's good or bad. I've mainly not seen it just because the amount of hype surrounding it, and I'm one of those people who avoids things whilst they're getting hype. Makes sense. I'll watch it for free when it's on Netflix one day. That's what I'll do.
Which I'm sure will probably happen.
But it's like that kind of thing of that. Yeah, you don't need to reboot things. You should do your own thing. And see how it goes, but then that's like I don't feel like that's necessarily restricted to female reboots.
Oh no, not. I mean, like look at like Black Panther and like the Jordan Peele's films and stuff. They're a great example of what you should really do.
Yeah. Because
like you said, just make something new instead of trying to.
But getting like a a studio to attempt something new is next to impossible. That's why they keep rebooting like Friday the 13th and everything like that. It's like they have these IPs, they know people are going to watch them, like the Avengers. You know, they just re-released Avengers with extra footage.
Yeah, somebody brought that up yesterday. I was like, just give us more of your money. Why not?
Just give us on. It's like, but it's like that kind of thing would have been like a DVD, you know. But now it's like, no, Disney are going to go. No, we're just going to do another theatre release, and you're like, how's any other film meant to get a theatre release if you just keep re-releasing the Avengers?
Well, that's the whole thing with Disney, though. I think, is it in the film industry? I think they own about like a third of it or something.
They own something crazy. I was telling my brother about this because when they bought, I think, it was back when they bought Marvel or Sony or some shit. I was chatting to him and was like, this is crazy. Like, it's crazy that they can do this because to me, it's a monopoly.
Yeah.
Now. It's just an absolute monopoly. And he said the visual of it is actually kind of skewed. They own all of these IPs and they own all these companies, so it makes it seem like they've dominated the market. But then when you actually look at the film industry, you've got like Miramax and Universal and all these other big studios which own everything else. And then when you like narrow it down, it's only Western cinema. It's like they don't own any Japanese IPs, Korean films, any of that. And Bollywood as a genre is massive.
Yeah.
It's like, and they don't have any of that. But in terms of like our market, they've got a heavy hand. But in terms of what's actually out there, it's really minute.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely cash cowing it because of America.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's. Like, I keep hearing a lot of people say that like Korean cinema is incredible.
Great.
I haven't really got into it, but apparently it's very, very art housey.
It is like, but at the same time, I've watched a few Korean comedies, and they're hilarious because they don't take anything seriously.
Okay.
So like a UK comedy, you're gonna end up in like one of three categories. I've said three. I'm just gonna try and fill those three. I thought of two, and I'm like, I don't want to box myself in with two, so I'm gonna say three. So you're gonna get a romantic comedy. You know, it's gonna be something light-hearted, coming of age. One character or another is gonna fall in love and then learn something about themselves, and that's gonna be the entire gist of it. And then you're gonna get gross out. So it's gonna be like Hangover, Jackass, Bridesmaids, anything which is just going to be like, oh well, most of this is just going to be fluids. Yeah, like that's going to be the entirety of the thing. And then you're going to get something else, which like maybe like a cartoon. Yeah, like
I was going to say maybe even like intelligent comedy is what I will call it. Although it's kind of like, I feel like that's a terrible term, but like there's I think it's called Yesterday that's coming out, which is kind of like a Beatles thing. Yeah, and that's a great idea. Yeah, and it's a great concept, and I think it's interesting that you don't really see innovative comedies that often. Like the Cornetto trilogy was a great example of like.
But then a lot of people don't class them as comedies.
It's
like
weird.
They look at it and they go, Shaun of the Dead, yeah, that's a comedy. But they'll look at Hot Fuzz and World's End and go, no, they're not comedies. They're like action films with comedy aspects. Yeah. I'm like, no, they're written as comedies. Yeah.
They're written by comedians, essentially.
Yeah, by comedians in sitcom-esque situation. How are you not classing those as comedies? But then they're a rarity. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, whereas like I was saying, like Korean cinema, I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. Okay. Which was a rip-off of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it was done in such a way that it was displaced from it, and most of it was just slapstick. Yeah. Like pure slapstick, and the characters they made to put into it was so intense that you couldn't like look away from it. And I think that's like the problem with the UK comedy, is all your characters are typecast. They're the same people, whereas there's no depth to them.
So would you say it's kind of like have you seen Blazing Saddles? Yeah. Yeah, like that kind of thing. When you say like kind of slapstick and like all the characters are just so
everything's a bit too much. Yeah. I recently rewatched Blazing Saddles. It's not as good as I remember it.
Oh no! Oh, don't say that. I haven't seen it in ages. Now I'm really scared.
Well, like people really love it, and I was like, I sat watching it. I was like, this isn't as funny as I think it should be, and that's made me sad. Oh. It made me sad. It's no Uncle Buck, which is mild for me. Anyway.
If you want something that's funny just purely because of you're watching it and you think, I can't believe this was made. Okay. And you're like the 100th person I've talked to about this, because I've recently discovered not a lot of people have either heard of it or seen it. Okay. Grease 2.
I know Grease 2 exists.
You know,
I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're one of the few people that's actually seen, like. Because when
It's terrible.
I explain to people like you should watch this, and I'm like, they're like, I don't want to watch it. I've seen Grease 1. I'm like, no, but Michelle Pfeiffer's in this, and they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, and I just describe the whole concept of the story of she can't date this nerdy guy who's a clearly very attractive man because he doesn't ride a motorcycle.
He doesn't.
And what a concept!
Don't date people who don't ride motorbikes.
No,
that's the lesson from today's. Yeah, like Grease 2's weird.
It's
Grease 1's weird though.
It's real weird, but that's like weird to the point of it being a classic.
But like, I feel like Grease 1 is weirder when you watch it now.
Oh, 100%. Like the intro card sequence.
Well, just like everything. Like the whole, like, there's like a dream sequence in it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of musical numbers which have no context. Like, there's no reason for them to sing about Grease Lightning when they're fixing up that car.
Not at all.
If that was a modern film, it'd be a montage. You wouldn't have like a track, people dancing, and it's like
they just don't make films like that anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's of its time, isn't it? It's like it's a complete musical film. But the only film which I can think to actually mirror it against is Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
because you just have no context scenes thrown into what is a narrative. Like if you just have the narrative of that film, it still holds up. It's still a narrative.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but it's done in such a heavy-handed way. It's almost like they wrote the songs and was like, we need to put stuff in around it.
We need to think of a story.
But that was that was acceptable at the time. Whereas now, if people did that, they'd be like, what is this? Like, it could be a good stage show, but what is this?
Well, I was going to say that is what Grease is.
Yeah.
Because I think back to when I was in primary school, and we had a whole thing every year where we'd do like a production, and one of those years it was Grease 2.
You did Grease.
Not Grease 2. Sorry, it was Grease 2 T-O-O. It was we did. So we did Grease for that, and like it worked great as like a primary school stage show. Like we had.
I think it's strange putting kids in Grease. That's weird.
It is a bit weird, but I mean we also did like Robin Hood. We did some strange things.
I got thinking the other day of Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
And the things you learn at school, the stories you study at school, and how inappropriate they are.
Yeah.
Like, Romeo and Juliet's about, like, essentially, I can't remember how old Romeo's meant to be, but she's meant to be, like, 13.
Yeah.
And the entire film is that he's depressed that he can't sleep with this 13-year-old. Like, that's the play.
Yeah.
And you get to the end of it, and you're like, yeah, it's really romantic, and people really romanticize it, and then your English teacher goes, yeah, but it's basically just about paedophilia. You're like,
yeah.
And we keep teaching this to people. And like Grease is heavily sexually charged.
That's all it is, essentially.
And then you throw primary school into that and go, yeah, this is cute, right? It's like,
probably fine.
Is it?
You've got to learn someday, so learn with Grease.
I don't know.
That's the problem. That's maybe why you don't see that kind of thing as much these days, is because I think like the musical aspect of it kind of discharges all of the potential controversy to it.
Do you think if you make something a musical, people are more accepting of it?
I think so, because like you were saying about it breaks it up. Like people don't think about like, oh, this is a bit weird that he's like talking about what he's going to do to her later, or like I mean, there's a song in Grease 2 that's literally just singing about reproduction.
Yeah.
Like
Grease 2 is even more heavy-handed.
Well, yeah, my favourite personal of all of those is "Let's Do It for Our Country" is the title of the track.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're so heavy-handed, but you kind of just like you're along for the ride at that point. You're thinking, you know what, I'm with the music. I don't care about anything else.
There's a good track to it,
Yeah.
Does that break the boundary? I mean, it's kind of like cartoons with that though.
Yeah.
I feel like recently there's been a shift. So before you could get cartoons, and Disney's the worst for this, where they throw in innuendo.
Oh yeah.
They'll throw in innuendo, throw in something. It's like the whole scene in Lion King, where they blatantly have sex. The lions go at it, and you don't notice it as a kid. Like, but as an adult, you're like, "Where's that warthog and that meerkat watching these people? What? What?" And then like that happens all the time. Whereas like now, I feel like there's a lot less of that in Disney films.
Yeah, they've kind of got.
They've really pulled it back.
Yeah,
but I think that's because of films like Sausage Pie.
They just go so far in the extreme. Yeah.
Where and Big Mouth, on Netflix,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Like they've gone to such an adult extreme that Disney is so careful about putting something adult into their children's content, so they're not compared with it.
Yeah, I guess that's it, because there are like South Park and things like that, which are so inherently all about the adult side of it and getting the adults to watch it.
And there's so many cartoons now which are made for adults, which I think, they're scared of treading that line now.
I guess maybe that's to do with, because it's the whole idea of why loads of films nowadays are going with the real 80s aesthetic, is because filmmakers who grew up in that time are now making films. And maybe it's a similar thing with cartoons, because really probably like the 90s maybe were like prime cartoon era. 80s,
they were
90s.
the golden age.
And so then it's the same kind of thing where people who grew up during that and with those are now making them, and they've kind of, like you were saying, like they're making them specifically for adults because they know there are people like them who grew up with them and will still watch them.
Well, this was something I can't remember who I was speaking to about this. It was like, because I was thinking about my work, and for the longest time I couldn't figure out why I draw like I do.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out where I picked it up from or anything like that, because I was like looking at the things which I was shown as a kid, and I'm like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
I was like, the cartoons were all very clean. Everything was kind of nice. There was only like a few glimpses, because my dad was into motorbikes, where you'd see like dragons and stuff like that. And I'm like, my interest as a kid was like D&D, and it wasn't like surreal in any way. Yet the stuff I draw is heavily distorted.
Yeah.
Heavily pushed from one extreme to another, and I used a lot of like abstract characters and all this kind of stuff. And then it was like 2 years ago or so, I discovered there was a term called lowbrow.
Okay.
And lowbrow is the term for a lot of the art which was made in the 90s for grunge bands.
Yeah.
And like Tools videos.
Yeah.
Like everything's fucked up and everything's kind of twisted and everything like that. And it's called lowbrow art.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hang on a minute.
That's me.
And it was this moment where I'm like, that's what I've been doing forever, and I've just never had a term for it. And it's like this whole movement of it, and it's like it's seen as like this really niche version of art because it was so heavily popularized through music and all that, and so it doesn't get any kind of respect in the grander scheme. I was like, that's weird. And then you watch stuff like Adventure Time, and Regular Show, and you're like, why are these so fucked up? Why are these so twisted? And you're like, that's because everyone who is our age, who is making these shows, grew up on all that as well.
Yeah.
They grew up on Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy and went, yeah, that's really cool. I wish I could make something like that. And then given that opportunity, like, yeah, we should do...
I'm on it.
We should push like this. But it's weird that doesn't happen with music. Or does it happen with music?
I mean, like, music definitely evolves.
Yeah. I don't feel like music comes round as often as every other medium.
Yeah, like it does kind of feel like it just changes permanently, and that I think that's why I almost find it kind of worrying, and why there's kind of like you need to preserve things a bit.
Okay.
I think you maybe see it with culture in general. So like we kind of got to a point where jazz was a thing for like 70s kind of era, or maybe even earlier than that. But then there are some like filmmakers. So there was like not Dave Chappelle. What's his name? The guy who did La La Land.
Oh yeah. I don't know his name, but yeah.
Because like also he did Whiplash.
Yeah.
And both of those are very heavy into the jazz side of it.
Yeah.
And it's because I think he was a student at like a jazz school and stuff. So it's interesting that they kind of pull their ideas from it, but as music actually as a medium, it just more feels like, rather than being cyclical, it's like evolutionary. So like it just changes over time to use the old things.
That's weird.
Yeah. So like, I mean, like I was listening to Chet Baker the other day, who's like jazz blues kind of musician. And I was just listening to him. I was like, this is incredible. I've not really listened to much of his stuff before, but I was like, this is great. And then I was just kind of like trying to like write something that was like that. But I think maybe especially with musicians, there's a big focus on keeping your own style to it. So I was
Yeah.
listening to this and I was like, oh, I could maybe try and write something that's like this, but not like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of music, and maybe that's the point, like, I find musicians, I mean, maybe it's because I don't know enough about music, but I find they don't do referential in the same way. So, like, you get a visual artist will go, here's my painting of a horse. And everyone looks at it and goes, that's a painting of a horse. And then people who have had art education will look at it and go, that's a painting of a horse. But the way he's done the hair references this.
Yeah.
Whereas with music, if people do that, they're like, no, they've ripped it off.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, oh, well, I want to reference it, but I can't. So I've got to do it in my own way and push. Like, it's a lot more, I don't know what the word is, not vindictive. It look cutthroat.
It feels a lot more like you're stealing somebody's ideas rather than collaborating or borrowing it.
I wonder why that is, though.
Well, collaboration has become a massive... I don't know if it's like recently become a thing or I've just become
more
exposed to it and more aware of it, but I've noticed that a big thing at the moment with at least the smaller kind of artists is collaboration. So like working with other people, writing a track, and I still don't understand how it works. And I have friends who do this, they're like incredible musicians. I should probably just sit them down and ask, like, so when you sit down and you're collaborating with somebody, who decides like who you're writing it for? Like, do you exchange money, or do you just say like this one's for you, then we'll meet up again and I'll do one for you? Like, I don't really know how it works, but I like the idea that, like you were saying, it's a bit less vindictive and a bit more collaborative.
I find I can understand the inability to collaborate in a way, like not inability, but like not understanding how that would work. Because I mean, I do most things solo, purposefully. You know, I like people have said, "Oh, we should do something together," and I'll be like, "No." Like, it's nothing against you, but the way I works better independently. And so the idea of just sitting down with someone and going, "Yeah, well, you do this bit and I do this bit," I'm like, that seems way restrictive.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna feel weird if you do something which I'd want to change.
Yeah.
Because I won't want to change what you've done, but at the same time, it's not the way I do it.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that?
I guess, like, when you say about you prefer like working alone because of that.
Yeah.
What about if it was like cross medium? So essentially, instead of it being you like say like drawing bases, like you draw this thing and then you draw that thing, and instead like I'll draw this thing to go along with your documentary or so there's a kind of a you both just say you have your creative freedom
doing your own thing but side by side.
Yeah
That could work,
because that's a big thing that I've been trying to do recently, but it's difficult to kind of toe that line. So like I have a friend who great illustrator, but because she does it essentially it's a profession, so there's kind of a balance there where I can't just be like, hey, do you want to work on a thing, because then it's like, but I'm using time that I would be using to like on this commission where I'm getting paid for it to then do something with you. So I find that collaboration, that's why I don't really understand how it works in a professional sense, because in a semi-professional way, you already have a form of income. You're not thinking about that, you're just thinking I want to do something
fun, we could do this and but then like at the same time, like I've had like the idea of writing tracks, I think we went through this last time, was like in many ways I don't understand how musicians put tracks together or go out and go, I'm going to write a song. So they sit down and write and they do it, and it's like, right, so did you come up with the lyrics first? Did you come up with the beat first? Did you do the guitar? Have you had like a melody in your head? If you had all of those, how did you randomly come up with lyrics which match that rhythm? And I'm like, that makes no sense. And like, I've been in bands. And I don't, like, you can experience it, but at the same time, there's no way to go, this is how it's done. Yeah. Because I'm like, there was a thought the other day, I think I was watching, like, Metallica do some, like, session stuff. And I was just like, so who starts off here? Like, does Hetfield come in with some lyrics and go, I've written these lyrics, now we need to write music for them? Or does someone just start playing a beat? And then the rest of everything comes in? I'm
like as a band, because like as somebody who's been in both, like, as a band it's so different compared to solo. Like with a band, like, I always find that it works as a case of like somebody will just say, I have this idea, and it just kickstarts things.
Okay.
I mean, I really enjoy band collaboration purely from a way of like, you can really just throw ideas out, and sometimes they'll just like, you'll get everything exposed to a new way of thinking.
Okay.
So like, an example would be we wrote a song ages ago, and then we were stuck on the chorus. We were like, what are we gonna, like, guitar wise, what are we gonna play for the chorus? No idea. We had a basic idea of what we wanted to do. So then we just sat in the same room, just all kind of like doing our own thing. We're just like, okay, that kind of way. And then around about the same time, me and the other guitarist just looked up and we were like, oh yeah, I've got an idea, and basically said it at the same time. And then we were like, he played his thing, I played my thing, and we were like, oh, okay. And I can't remember I think it was like the bassist was just like, what happens if you play them together? And we played them together and we're like, whoa, it works incredible, this is great. And like something like that, I think working by yourself would probably never happen. Like, I would have just come up with the chorus bit and I would have been like, oh, that's pretty, that'll do.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
But I find in terms of like where you start, like when you're doing it by yourself, it's so much more open.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to write the second album, and I'm part of the way there, but then I just keep hitting walls of, I don't want to say writer's block, because it's not quite that, it's just a lack of inspiration. It's just I kind of hit a point where I don't have any idea to kind of kickstart things.
Okay, yeah. Because I guess there's this question like, so you did the first album, which you made up from lots of mini ideas.
Yeah.
You'd had stacking. So did you sit and go, I'm gonna do a second album, and then kind of stunted yourself by going, I need to make something?
It was kind of like,
and that's provided a blocker.
Yeah, it's like partly that, and then also the whole thing of, I had some stuff written that I was like, with the first album, I was like, doesn't work for that, so I'm gonna put that in a folder somewhere in a corner, forget about it. And like, that's essentially how the album came to be. The first album was just, I had a load of songs and ideas, and I just sat down one day at my computer, and nobody thinks about this form of songwriting, is having loads of ideas and actually having to just put down all your instruments, sit with a computer, look at those ideas and say, right, I like you, I don't like you, right, I like you, but you don't fit this, so go there. And I have so many folders and organising methods, because without that, I have no way of keeping track of what could kind of go together.
Yeah, I find when you make something, when you're coming from like an original point, there's a lot of trimming you have to do for every idea. Like, I mean, like even like right now, there's a few projects I'm working on where I've come up with like 20 different ways it could go, and I'm sat there and going, right, well, I need to trim this. But at the same time, like, there's like a little bit of bittersweetness where you're like, oh, if I trim this, as soon as I trim this, 19 of those ideas I'm not going to be able to work on for a while, because I've got to do this one thing. Yeah. It's like the book which I'm trying, it's like, I need to do that. And then I start something else. I'm like, no, stop starting that. You need, this bit physically needs to be done for that project to complete. And I'm like, yeah, but I've got that.
I think that's, but I think you should never stunt yourself and like stop yourself from doing that, because I think there is value in just in the moment being like, this is what I've come up with, putting it, and then just being like, I'm going to stop there,
sliding it to the side.
You just put it to the side, and then after you've finished your main current project, then you go and do something else. It's all about organisation, I think, and because like I had the single I released was literally a track that I wrote for my sister's wedding. So that was, I had a date that I had to do it for, and I did it. Yeah. And then because it was all fresh in my mind and all the emotions of the event and stuff, I just thought, right, even though this wasn't in my original plan of where I was going to do things and what I was going to release and stuff, I thought, I'm going to record this, I'm going to release it, because it's the right moment to do that. So I think you have to just be flexible, but also really hard with yourself, because like you're saying about, you got the book, so you just need to like force yourself to do that, and like, right, I'm going to do this, oh, but I also have this other idea, so write that.
Yeah.
You need like
but I'm back to this.
second book, so you can like
sketchbooks everywhere.
yeah, like that's the way you can do it, like in tandem.
In a way, like that's a genuine like that's usually like when people are like the second film is crap, the second album's crap.
Yeah,
and I think that's because when I was saying with like the whole originality of ideas and films and stuff, why major companies rely so heavily on the same product.
Yeah,
because if you take an original idea and it's successful, the pressure to outdo that original idea kills it.
Yeah,
every single time.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, you know, it's like read the book, like I released the book. If someone came to me with like a publishing deal and was like, we want you to do another one, my brain would be like, suddenly don't have any ideas. Because you've just gone, you need to do this now. This is a product, this is a thing which we can do, and we're willing to spot. I'm like, yeah, but you could have done that with the first one, and then the ideas would have been flowing for the second one, whereas right now it's just this standalone piece, which will come and go and do whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think, yeah, that's
why... kill your own creativity.
Just throw the ideas out there and just let it happen. Then yeah, if somebody does something, say, you need to do another book, it's like, well, I have all these ideas for the thing that I have no idea where they're going, so I could start there.
There's a trope of scriptwriters where if you write a script for a film, you should always have a second script in mind.
Okay.
Because if you are attempting to get your script seen and you're doing all the things which people do when they do that, which is like you send it to agents, you send it to producers, you go to pies and you network like crazy, is that if you have that idea and it gets picked up, people instantly ask you about what else can you do? Yeah. You know, what are your other ideas? So you have to have a secondary idea to catch them at that point because they're interested in you at that point. And if you don't have that secondary idea, you're not going to do it. Yeah. And your first film probably won't go anywhere. Yeah. Because people like, oh, well, he's got one idea.
People aren't invested in it because
they've got one song and what's the point? Everything else, like you release one track, so you've always got to have something else just sitting, just sitting on the little shelf, so you can go. And this is how we're going to do it.
And I have this. Yeah. But it's not fleshed out. But it's not.
Yeah. I got this idea. Maybe needs a little bit of funding. And can go forward.
That's why I see the value. And this is more. I don't know, I was going to say it's more in music, or at least I'm noticing more in music, but I think it's also a thing in films, you just don't see it quite as often maybe, is the idea of just contrast your previous work. Yeah. So, like, that's why I really like John Mayer from a point of view of, as an artist, he creates such vastly different stuff from time to time, so like he'll have like the acoustic album, and then he'll then go and do like heavier things, or he'll do like a bit more of a bluesy kind of style album, and I think there's so much you can do with that, and like you were saying, nobody really can compare the second one to the first one because it's so vastly different that really they're a separate product.
Change genre completely. It stops critics.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, you can compare it, but you're never really going to be able to compare it. Yeah. Because I made a rom-com after a horror.
Yeah. and like, genuinely, there's so much in that, and I think it'd be so interesting to see more filmmakers especially do that kind of thing. Like, I think Tarantino, to an extent, kind of does that because he kind of limited himself by saying, we're going to do 10 films and then I'll probably stop at that point. So because he limited himself from the get-go, that kind of says, well, this film can be this film can be this. And obviously it all has the Tarantino flair to it, but there's still... I look at the trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that he's got coming out, and I compare that to, say, Reservoir Dogs. Yeah. And I look at them and I think, they look so tonally different in so many ways.
I think Edgar Wright does that as well.
Yeah, actually, that's a good shout.
He definitely like jumps up and goes, I've done this. Cool, I nailed it. Let's go do something completely different. Yeah. You know, let's it'll still be well produced, it'll still be well made. Like Scott Pilgrim. Like basically you watch that and then you watch Baby Driver. Like, these are two very vastly different films. Yeah. Clearly someone who enjoys film, but you just can't compare.
Yeah, like they have so much that is their own. Yeah. But then they just have that little bit that is still, you still watch it and you're like, oh, that's Edgar Wright. Like, it's the small nuances that is what carries him across, like the camera shots and like the zooms and stuff are So Edgar Wright.
Clearly, for your second album, you need to make a metal album.
Well, I mean, not
country
quite
western,
that, but I'm kind of working on. So I'm really inspired by Buckethead.
Oh yeah,
which I feel like saying that in a general context to a lot of people would just be like, what? Because like the first album was like basically it was all acoustic pretty much.
Yeah.
But then I just love Buckethead and his. I mean, as a creator, he's incredible.
Yeah.
So the second album is a bit more to that kind of way, and I think I had like 5 different album start points.
Yeah.
So that I essentially like I said about starting with the limitations is I've set myself a genre almost or an idea, and I've said right that's that,
yeah,
and that's that, and I know that that's what I'm going to do. So it definitely helps with the, like I was saying about the organisation. It means that I can write something, and I can be as free as I want to be because I like so much variance of music that one day I'll sit down and I'll just, because like you were saying about like the starting point, I usually will just sit down, have my guitar at the side, I'll just pick it up and I'll just be like mess around and I'll be like, oh, I kind of like that, and I'll record it, so I've got it for posterity. And by doing that, one day I could write something that's like super poppy sounding, and then the next day write something that's very, like you're saying, almost like rock metal-y kind of style. Yeah. Because that's essentially where I've come from as well. That's where I started my music journey, if you want to call it that. It sounds real pretentious, but that's where I started everything, was doing rock and metal. Yeah. So I still think you can kind of feel that a bit in what I do. Like in the first, in like the acoustic stuff, it's so big on like the dynamic side of things, purely because I've come from this whole idea of big choruses and weird verses and that kind of thing. And
I think that's it's a good way of working. It's to never be afraid of just doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, like maybe I think for some people as well, like for a lot of musicians, it's probably a bit easier to do things when they actually know who they are and what they want to make. Yeah. But essentially because I'm not professional and I don't see it happening anytime soon, I have the freedom to just not have to work out who I am or what I want. I can just say, right, I like everything, I'm just going to do everything and we'll see what happens.
Try everything until something goes.
Because eventually you will find something that, like, there are points where I'll write something I think that is so me, but it's rare that happens because I have no idea what that is. Like the one thing I know, and this isn't just from a writing perspective, this is also a listening perspective, I know I just really like big choruses. Right. Like just real, they can be really generic in terms of musicality, but just like powerful, and they're more like thick and fast paced maybe, and I like that, and I like dynamic kind of changes. So that's why I really like post rock and stuff like that, is because that's all about starting real quiet and then building up. People can, like, I've heard people criticize post rock before, being like, "Oh, it's so boring. It's just like just the same thing, but just builds it up." And I'm like, "That's great. That's what I want.
That's the best bit of tracks.
It's the anticipation. It gets me every time." So I don't know. I think that in general, creatively, but just in life, people should just be open and accepting of just trying something new. Because you might find that actually even if you never would have thought you would have loved it, you might be really good at it.
I think that's a solid point to end on. Yeah, that works out quite nicely. Well, we'll have your video up in the next couple of weeks.
At some point. We'll work that out.
So we'll push that, and if not, Hilderstone is.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all right. Hilderstone's the one. Yeah. All right. So cool. Thank you for coming, Jack.
Anytime.
Thank you for coming to your house.
It's my house. Yeah.
We'll call it there.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.